In 2014, the world was shaken by a story of unimaginable suffering, resilience, and silence. For Saudi princesses, daughters of King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, were imprisoned in their own home under orders from their father. They were starved, sedated, and stripped of their voices. This is the story of Princesses Jawaher, Hala, Maha, and Sahar, once living in unimaginable luxury, now victims of a repressive regime and a father's wrath. Welcome to True Crime Stephen. Today, we uncover the truth about their fate and the horrifying details of their captivity. King Abdullah ruled Saudi Arabia for a decade and was celebrated internationally as a reformer. He expanded women's rights, allowed them to join the Consultative Council, and opened doors to education and the workforce. But behind closed doors, the king was a different man. A patriarchal tyrant who valued male heirs above all and ruled his family with an iron fist. While King Abdullah's public image was one of progress and modernization, within the walls of his palace, his 4 daughters endured a far darker reality. Their mother, Hala Al-Fayez, was born in 1957 into a prominent Jordanian family. At just 15 years old, she was forced into an arranged marriage with King Abdullah, who was nearly 50 at the time. Like many young girls in the Arab world, she had no choice. Her marriage was a tool for political alliance, not love. Trapped in a union devoid of affection, Hala gave birth to 4 daughters, Jawaher, Hala, Maha, and Sahar. But as she failed to produce a male heir, King Abdullah's favor turned to resentment, and Hala became little more than an afterthought in his life. During their childhood, the 4 princesses lived lives most could only dream of. They traveled the world, wore designer clothes, and received elite educations. But in Saudi Arabia, even princesses are bound by strict male guardianship laws. King Abdullah acted as their legal guardian, and while they enjoyed some freedoms, they were entirely dependent on his will. This invisible price of privilege would later become painfully clear. In 2003, Hala made a bold and dangerous decision. Unable to endure her life of isolation and emotional neglect, she fled Saudi Arabia with the help of a women's rights organization. She settled in London, leaving behind her daughters, a choice that would haunt her forever. When King Abdullah learned of her escape, he was furious. In his eyes, Hala was still his property, and her defiance was a personal insult. To punish her, he turned his wrath on the daughters she loved so dearly. After Hala's escape, the 4 princesses were placed under strict house arrest in a private villa. What had once been their home became their prison. Initially, they were allowed limited contact with the outside world, but as they began to question their father's rule and advocate for human rights, their conditions worsened. The sisters were deprived of basic necessities, forcibly sedated, and subjected to emotional and physical abuse. Their half-brothers, loyal to the king, acted as enforcers, ensuring the sisters remained silent. Among the sisters, Princess Hala was the most outspoken. While interning at a hospital in Riyadh, she uncovered political prisoners being forcibly sedated for expressing dissent. Shocked by this abuse, she spoke out, calling for justice. Her bravery came at a cost. Furious at her defiance, King Abdullah had her arrested and sent to a women's prison in the desert, a chilling warning to her sisters. In 2014, Hala took her fight to the global stage. She staged protests, wrote letters to world leaders, and gave interviews to the media, pleading for her daughter's release. But despite her efforts, the international community remained largely silent, prioritizing lucrative business ties with Saudi Arabia over human rights. Dr. Dwight Burdick, an American physician who worked for the Saudi royal family, later revealed the horrifying conditions the princesses endured. He described forced sedation, malnutrition, and psychological trauma. Despite his efforts to help, his proposals to send the sisters abroad for rehabilitation were rejected by the royal court. Dr. Burdick smuggled food to the sisters and provided emotional support, but his attempts to free them were met with threats to his own safety. King Abdullah passed away in 2015, But his death did not bring freedom for the sisters. Before his passing, he reportedly ensured that they would remain imprisoned indefinitely. In the years that followed, tragedy struck. Princess Hala died in 2021, followed by Princess Maha 6 months later. The exact circumstances of their deaths remain unknown. Today, Alanaud Al-Fayez lives in London, holding on to the hope that she might one day see her remaining daughters, Jawaher and Sahar, again. But their fate remains uncertain. Are they still alive, or have they too become casualties of a cruel regime? The story of the 4 Saudi princesses is a heartbreaking reminder of the struggles faced by women under oppressive regimes. Even royalty is not immune to the injustices of patriarchy. Their courage, resilience, and sacrifice must not be forgotten. What can we do to bring justice for these women? Share their story, demand accountability, and fight for human rights everywhere. If this story moved you, please share this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that need to be told. Thank you for watching.